heading for Boyle, Connor's Common.
Do you do that commute every morning?
I do, yeah, I'm tarmacking down there.
Oh, good stuff. So have you much tarring to do today? He said that he's furious.
The welfare benefits were cut for those under 26 in the budget.
All you have to do is listen for...
And Arthur Griffith with...
For your journey, as long delays are expected.
For you, and if you're pulled out tomorrow, you can pick a ticket. Which...
It has come to our attention that broadcast signals from your planet have degraded to the point that there's absolutely nothing on the radio but absolute rubbish. We apologize for the delay in our response. We urge you all to remain calm as we have dispatched Howard Crane, one of our brightest agents in the field, to rectify this issue. Has migrated over to YouTube for this edition because our server is down, because I didn't pay for the server, because I've got a wedding this month. Not my wedding, family wedding. I'd prefer the funds go into that. I know that Jack Klassen is a bit pissed off. He put in a good bit of work there on transforming the station really from an ordinary music station into something more along the lines of Howard Stern's channel on fucking Sirius. Hey. Well, Jack, if you really wanted this so much, you know, maybe like a week ago you could have, like, I don't know, offered to pay for the server. But how are you guys doing out there? I'm not going to pay attention to any of the live chatter or anything like that because I don't like YouTube or the people that use it. It's a sewer, not as much as it used to be, but when it comes to live streams, goddamn, it seems no matter where I go, live streams are always like full of references to the Jews. It's insane. I wonder, are these government agents, or are they just honest to God? I don't want to call them anti-Semites. They're not all anti-Semites, although most of them are. But really, you're going to come into say Frank Tofano's live stream, and you know he talks about living on the carnivore diet, something that we can touch upon at some point in this broadcast, and he's just all about health and, you know, it all are related subjects such as the environment and the science behind being healthy, the psychology behind being healthy. You come along to his live stream and just talk about the Jews all the time. Okay, great. I wonder what a day in the life of these people looks like, but that's enough. This anti-broadcast is in
memory of my good friend who passed away last week, Dean Brown. I know that he was fond of the show and what we were doing here on EV Radio. It's been a hard week, so I'm not going to be 100% behind this. And we're going to memorialize him in the form of some music here and there, but that's about it. You won't really notice it that much. The memorial is for me, because I know you don't know who this kid is, but I tell you what, he was one of the most gentlest souls that you'll ever meet. A young man too. This is what gets my goat, folks. We live in a world that has been engineered in such a way that young people are dropping like flies. They really are. If not through health complications, then by depression and ultimately suicide. And depression is another thing, and other mental illnesses are another thing as well that just compound the physical problems that we have, because we don't feel worthy to truly look after ourselves. And 99% of the people around us in this world are also bought into the propaganda of, to eat the wrong foods and do the wrong activities. And even though they might tell you, oh, I'm healthy, I'm perfectly healthy, but for some reason, once they hit the 40 mark, oh, well, they've hit the wall and they develop some kind of chronic condition. So, these people are unhealthy. And then what kind of role models are those? You'd think that there would be some people out there who have this shit locked down, and then you can turn to them and say, that is... Sorry, I'm hitting the red on the decibel meter here. I'll turn it down. You'd think, that you can just turn to someone and say, this is the image of health. I want to be healthy now, so I'll work towards that. Yeah, it's not going to happen. Not going to happen. If there is no image of health in the world, then how do we know what's healthy and what's to stop us from just thinking that we're healthy just because everyone else looks as tired, worn out as us, and feels as shit as us? I'm pissed off, man. More so than what I was a week ago, when I was living in the bliss of a world with Dean in it. A world I took for granted. Before we get into the subject matter, I would like to play a song that, I don't know this kid intimately. I just loved him, and he loved me. So I wasn't privy to say his favorite song, but I do know that we shared some music together, and I'd like to share some of that with you, the audience. This is an Irish DJ. This is Dahi and Caharo featuring Elaine May. Excuse me there. I don't have with open broadcaster software. I have the luxury of my different little buttons and knobs and running the songs off of VLC media player. I have no idea when they're going to end, so forgive me if it's a bit haphazard here. So yeah, I guess I've figured like, oh yeah, let's look at the news and let's get into some news and you know leave about 20 minutes at the beginning to see if we can pick up steam on the listener count. But I don't see anything of like real bloody note here. It's just the same shit over and over again. Brexit deal only orderly way out for UK. 2 wind warnings in place, and that was 11 hours ago. So that's just useless. Why is that even here? It's all the same shit. Police corruption, Garda corruption, spooky incidences involving people dying. This is characteristic of Ireland. It's a fucking weird shithole where people just vanish or get murdered mysteriously, and is it fully investigated? A lot of the times not, I don't think. I think there's a lot more going on in this country than we're let on. We're let known, to do with Garda corruption, to do with these gangs that run the country now, under the big gang, which is the government and its lackeys in the police force on Garda Síochána. And I just have to look at every time I see a missing person or a death, I have to wonder, I have to be suspicious about it automatically. It's strange. It's like we live in a really cold Mexico. It's basically it. Especially when it comes to our police force. They're as corrupt, or possibly even more corrupt. You know, and there's actually a rating system out there for the most corrupt countries in the world, and I think Ireland comes in at some insane number like 3, the highest. Yeah, and you know, we are told through our television and radio and newspapers that, oh, it's everyone else that lives under, you know, bleak dictatorship. You know, look at Venezuela, look at the Middle East, look at Russia under Putin, look at America under Trump. Oh, everyone else is, you know, a fucking slave, peasant, has it hard as ever. But we here in Ireland, no, we have it great, even though, was it like 50% of us are homeless now, or some fucking crazy bullshit like that? Oh no, wait, that's how much of us are on hospital waiting lists, waiting for pretty fucking severe procedures. You know, things that we could die waiting for. I don't know. I'm going down a Gemma O'Doherty route, and you know we're going to discuss her with her anti-corruption Ireland group, which will become a party very soon, which she has launched, effectively launched on Monday, with a pretty good, sizable public meeting in Meath. Congratulations to her. I'm going to be getting behind that 100%, even though she's probably a shill. We have nothing else in this country, folks. Let's move on from the bemoaning the condition of the Republic of Ireland. let's discuss something a little more practical. We live in a world where gender, in a way, let me not use that word, sex, politics is just out of whack, it's out of control, and now we have this phenomena that I have just completely ignored because it just stinks of social engineering. The incels, the involuntary celibates. And I'm not at all saying that such people do not exist, that it's all some kind of psyop. No, these people certainly do exist, and their gripes with society are very, very appropriate, I would say. They're like MGTOWs, only they don't want to be MGTOWs. I think that's the way to put it. Men going their own way, who don't want to go their own way. They want to go the ordinary way, but the ordinary way isn't there for them. The ordinary way of procreating and just basically finding human affection is not open to them. And I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm some kind of expert or that I understand what's going on here, and there's plenty of other places that I'm sure you can enlighten yourself on your own time. But this one particular YouTuber, Bass FZ, let me look up his exact name because it's hard to remember. All caps, Bass FSZ. Yeah, let's see him. He's been on the scene for a while now. Yeah, where's that video? Yeah, Bass FS, Bass FZZ. Yeah, we're all incels now is what the title is, and I just clicked through that video because it sounds intriguing. It really sounds intriguing. And he made a very good case for the fact that, well, we're all involuntary celibates because there's just no quality out there when it comes to finding a mate. Even though, we might point to these particularly unattractive men who kind of look creepy, dare I say rapey. And we say, well, they're the involuntary celibates, but it seems that really when you get down to it, I myself have problems finding someone. I don't put in a whole lot of effort because I honestly, I have done so in the past and I didn't like what I saw. I didn't like what was on offer. It might actually depend mostly on where you live, the quality of the human beings all around. The quality of the human beings in Ireland all around, although they're nice people, they're accommodating people, they can be very loving and intelligent. But in terms of having some kind of compass in terms of their own lives and morality, outside of the usual, get a good job, raise money, buy a house, I don't even think many are up to even trying to do that anymore, because as I have mentioned before, we live in a cold version of Mexico. Basically, the government steals everything that we have, and then floods the place with foreigners, and is slowly starting to hand over the welfare state from the disenfranchised Irish over to this new group of disenfranchised people, because they're more important. So, yeah, not a great pool for me to dip my hand into like a lucky bag and pull something out, because God forbid, if I actually did that, I could waste a good 5-10 years of my life, because I would just inevitably run into someone with a cluster B personality and or an outright fucking venereal disease or some shit. I'm a human being, It's hard to not admire other human beings. Sorry, I just had to reposition the microphone. It's hard not to make a connection with another human being, no matter who it is. Maybe that's just particularly me, but I do notice that human beings in general have a tendency to meet someone who puts themselves across in the way that they expect, that the other person expects to see them. The best foot forward at first. We all do this to one degree or another, but when you're a particularly awful person and you just go all out to actually ensnare another human being, then the contrast is actually quite devastating to that person that you've ensnared. It takes years and years to develop a sense for a person when you first meet them, whether they're going to turn out to be trouble or not, whether they really truly have the morals that they say they do or not. There's an issue that's at the crux of all of this right now. At the risk of sounding like a sexist, like a misogynist, other YouTubers say this all the time, so I'm just going to come out and say it. Women tend to follow the lead of men in a society. That's just sociologically what happens. It's not so much that what women want from men that men become, but what men want from women that women become. And it's been pointed out again and again by many YouTubers in the manosphere that women have become, whatever they want to be, which is not what any human being should do, really. You shouldn't just go off on your own and try to figure things out. That's why MGTOW will fall flat on its face, with no guiding principle behind it, no evolutionary imperative behind it. And that's what women have done. They've said goodbye to their evolutionary imperative, and now what they do is they focus on bullshit, really. Crappy careers. They think they can have it all. You've heard all the stories, all the ways of articulating this point. And as a result, they are cocky and hard to negotiate with, hard to live with, because they expect that they should always be happy. They should always be fulfilled in every aspect of life, or they'll fucking divorce you. This, as you could probably imagine from my philosophy so far, is a problem with men and not so much women. From this base FZZ video, I gather that the incels, and from other videos as well, I gather that the incels are primarily angry about women being able to up their sexual marketplace value with frivolous bullshit like makeup, while men are, well, if you're ugly, then you're just ugly and you can't put on makeup because, well, that would look gay. And they're stuck. They're stuck being mediocre and looking mediocre, or at worst, rapey. There's a problem here. There's a problem of, defeatism, giving up. Because there is something that incels can do to get their shit together. I'm sorry, but that's actually the solution. We, as men, dictate the terms of the evolutionary imperative. We just do. Simple as that. I think maybe there's a problem of, the task being drawn up as too monumental within the manosphere for these men to feel that they can actually take on the challenge. And I know myself because I've spent the last 4 years in that kind of mentality. This is too hard. The society is too strong. I can't push back as an individual and make my own little circle where I can be happy and fulfilled and, have sex and pass on my genes. The other side of the problem. What is the other side of the problem? Oh yeah, the solutions are bullshit. Except for what you may have heard called NoFap. Sadly, in our society, we really have to have things reduced down to a soundbite. To basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 letters, and make a little kind of jingoism out of it. Oh, no fap. So that's just very indescript. It's very basic. That's the very basic thing. Don't masturbate is basically what no fap means. So anyone can just make up any bullshit they want about it. So there's maybe like 10 different versions of NoFap out there. What NoFap really is, it actually goes back to the yogis and many other mystical traditions throughout the West. Yes, the yogis came from the West. We endowed India and the East with many great spiritual treasures. One of them is conserving your semen. It might sound like a bit of a task for folks in a world that is just drenched in pornography, but the benefits are outstanding. Sadly, you won't feel the benefits, though, without proper diet. Proper diet is probably the most important thing. Finding a daily routine. Because what we're talking about here is developing a mental strength. Not only are you, by not masturbating, at least, keeping it to once a month and actually not having sex until ejaculation, is you're Let me start that sentence again. Not only are you conserving nutrients and keeping testosterone levels and other hormone levels in an even keel, getting out of the cyclical addiction of the dopamine release, getting rid of that law of diminishing returns where every time you do masturbate, you just feel less. And by feel less, I mean physically feel less, emotionally feel less, and just generally all over your body and in your mind and your soul, you just become numb. It's a deadly cycle, like, I don't know, alcohol or heroin, really. And it acts on the brain in the same way, even if the physical effects may not be as devastating. This is good for the body. This rejuvenates the body, but also rejuvenates the mind. It leaves resources free for the mind so that you blossom more as a human being. You have more energy throughout the day to get the things done that you want to get done. And as a result of getting things done in a day, that builds upon itself. That makes you think, hey, maybe I can achieve more. The other side of it is women naturally have to guard their sexuality. We know this because it's important. If they don't, they could, I think it's easier for them to catch a disease than us, really, when you think about it. It's also easier for them to ruin their lives by getting pregnant. Abortion and long-term birth control notwithstanding, just generally, throughout history, they've had to guard it well. And that is where the chunk of their power comes from, right? Well, if you are practicing a semi-yogic tradition of what has been known in the manosphere as no-fap, that also means that you're withholding sex too. It would help if the men who are catching the eye of women and actively dating them would participate in this ritual of just, we'll play around with you. We men will play around with you women, but we won't actually ejaculate. Maybe once a month. But there's also a tertiary benefit to that as well, I'll mention. That raises the overall economic value of men's penises and men's personalities as a whole across the marketplace. Women aren't too different from us men. They want it too. And if they can't get it as easily as they do get it, and that coupled with the physical radiance that a man exudes when he does conserve his semen, and the mental radiance and the charisma that just naturally builds in a man, as powerful, that will actually tip the scales and will contribute to humbling women a lot more. In short, I guess, stop being a pussy beggar. I'm kidding. But the tertiary benefit of not ejaculating in your woman, it's it actually allows lovemaking to last longer and be more sensual. You know, there's this weird, and it's primarily American, I think, this weird idea that sex must always culminate in an explosion. That there's the beginning, the seduction or the foreplay, the middle, just the pumping, basically, speaking from a male experience, and then the end, which is the orgasmic explosion, the brief reaching of nirvana. If that's rarefied, then it has a lot more value to both partners. And this fascination with the ejaculation. By the way, I'm not being a prude here. I do enjoy it myself. I just see its value. What was I going to continue on with there? Sorry, I'm distracted. I'm still in grieving. Yeah, I've lost track, folks. I'm sorry, I'm not like 100% with yous. This fixation with the ejaculation, I think, is most prominently to be seen amongst these incels. Because the complaint, okay, it's mentioned, oh, you know, we lack physical affection. But the main complaint seems to be we can't get our seed inside of a woman. We can't get our rocks off. It's worsened by the culture of pornography, which necessitates an ejaculation because there's not really a whole lot of pleasure to be derived from manually administering yourself. You know, really, the majority of the joy is at the end of the road. So that is kind of projected upon the idea of copulating with a woman. That's what you want in the end. When really, I think these guys would be much happier if they recognized that that's not the case when you get down to the reality of it. That when you're in the embrace of another and you're close to their body and you're just being with them, at least in my experience anyway, as I've grown, the ejaculation is possibly kind of a letdown, really. And what's the benefit of giving that up, that fixation? Well, every woman seems to want a man who will pleasure her more than other men. You don't necessarily have to go around telling women that about yourself. It oozes out of your aura when you are genuinely that person. When you're in that say phase in your life. You know, we kind of cycle through phases of inward directness, outward directedness. when you're in that phase, you exude that energy. I need to top up my glass of water, and nature is also calling, so I'm going to stick on another Dahi song to keep the memory of my friend Dean in the picture. Dahi is such a great artist, and he's collaborated through most of his work with beautiful female singers. Oh, you know what I want to play? Love's on Top, featuring Sinead White. This is a nice one. I'll catch you in a bit, folks.
A flicker of a smile from you. I know you're waiting for my eyes to say what to do. I can see this working for me. If you can see this working out for you, I'm holding on to nothing, you see. If you love me enough, sure, then let's go. Love on top. Never give up on
top. I die. Oh, let's fade this out. Can I do this? Yeah. Alright. Huh. Okay, I'm getting a hang of this new broadcasting software, but I'm not going to get used to it. We're back on the air, maybe on Friday, if Jack Klassen actually pays the bill. That'd be cool. But otherwise, it's going to be 2 weeks from now, because I'd prefer to have that €45 in my pocket for the wedding reception and having something to eat over the weekend. Thank you very much. Yeah. It's good to get back to the idea of incels and, a revolution to reconfigure the sexual marketplace currency, which is sex. Because when you get down to it, the currency is worth way more to men than it is to women. And it's just a matter of making it more equitable between the sexes. That just make it more rarefied. That's, any economics teacher will tell you that you raise the cost of something by rarefying it or manipulating the market in such a way that people think it's rarefied. And yeah, there are always going to be horn dogs out there who will, they don't understand their own bodies because they're, only 20 something, and they will bend over backwards. They cut out their own heart and hand it to a woman for the chances of, stroking her hair for 5 seconds. So yeah, can't escape that. But individuals can do something for themselves, and as a society we can slightly change the playing field. I think that, if the folks out there who find themselves in the unfortunate position of being born ugly or having grown ugly or just, really socially awkward, if they can actually empower themselves, then women in general will just realize, hey, this guy who will, literally cut off a limb to bed me is of significantly less value than these men who have essentially pulled themselves up by the bootstraps. Something I wanted to touch upon, but decided to leave it until I wrapped up my main points, is the whole idea that, and this is what MGTOW are mad about and refuse, and I totally agree, the idea that we are supposed to just take the shit, the detritus of the world that we have been born into, that we've been handed by our parents, gobble it all up and say, can I have some more? And by that I mean become superheroes and exert ourselves to the point of, wearing ourselves out for other people. Just for the hopes of being able to have a family and a quote-unquote normal life. I don't think it has to be that hard. I think that, and call me a romantic, but I think that there's actually someone out there for us that is on our level, I'm not talking about some kind of Disney princess fantasy. I'm talking about, like, if it really is our destiny to not be alone for the rest of our lives and to have a family, that if we were to become the best version of ourselves, then there's a very good chance that we might run into that opposite sex counterpart. The one, or one of the ones anyway, and hit it off because, you know, two tuning forks, you know, configured in the same way, vibrate with each other, you know, that kind of new age stuff, which is very true. So I hope to impart something that I've learned anyway to help that occur. You know, there's a lot of folks out there who, you know, they feel like shit, they look in the mirror and they see shit, and they don't really have much hope for themselves in the world and their own future. And the incel community is the stereotype of that, writ large, that we all point to and say, them over there. And this is a very good point that Bass FZZ, whatever, made, is that, you know, we look at these guys and we think, oh, they're the incels, but no, really, we're the incels. There's ways to improve oneself. There always is. Always. I saw a YouTube video that broke my heart into a million pieces, and I forget what it was called. It was by a guy, I think he was Scandinavian. He sounded Scandinavian. And what was it called? On Being Ugly? Is that it? Yeah. Never Give Up is his YouTube channel, and Being Ugly, My Experience, and it's 24 minutes long. And the thing is, right? Yeah, the guy is not, you know, he's not going to be a model. And yeah, he is a little painful to look at. But he has just kind of taken it as granted that this is what he looks like. And, you know, it's like, I don't know, we're some dough or something, and we're formed in a certain way, and then we're put into the oven, and then when we're like 9 years old, we're taken out of the oven, and that's us. That's us forever. But that's some bullshit. That is not actually true. Unless you were born with some severe fucking genetic problem where, you know, you're missing like half of your jaw and an eye, and you've got an arm growing out of your chest. You know, that, okay, yeah, that, you're not going to be able to fix that. But, oh shit, man, like, he just took that for granted because that's our society. That's the way we work. We think, oh, I'm born this way, that's the way I am, that's the way I'll continue. Yet we don't realize that the body is a growing, morphing thing. you don't look the same way that you looked when you were 9 years old. If you're in your 20s, say. And you're not going to look the way that you look in your 20s when you're in your 30s. You know, change slows down as you age. You know how, like, basically every baby looks the same, you know? And it's really the old cow principle, actually. Of course, all babies don't look the same. There's minor differences between them. Just like when you are a city dweller and you drive through the countryside and you see the cows in the field and they all look the same. But to the farmer, you know, they don't look the same. They're very perfectly identifiable, one from the other. If you were to spend more time in the countryside, then eventually you'll get to know individual cows. You'll be able to tell the difference between them. Same with people of other races, actually. No matter what race you are. It's a very murky thing, appearance. And it changes. And you change more often when you're young than when you're older. You know, maybe when you're older, your skin might deteriorate more rapidly than when you were young, but that's just the wallpaper on the building. You can absolutely change how you look. There's also another YouTuber I've gotten into her. What's Asha? No, that's Asha Logus. That's a good YouTube channel as well, Asha Logus. Go look into him. Oh, it's this girl in her 20s, and she makes videos about the you know, sexual disparities and such. God, I really want to name drop her because she's pretty good. But she was talking, and this is how it's connected as well. She was talking about incels and how incels view women's ability to be chameleons with the use of makeup to change the way they look and how that's unfair. And she went into a detailed video about that. But she also mentioned how she has a chronic acne problem, and she showed an image of herself at the end of the video of herself when she just woke up and said, well, you know, compare that to me now when I do have makeup on. And, you know, she was much more pimply, much more red in the face. And I'm actually upset as well about, you know, on behalf of women as well, that, you know, they're as misguided as the incels in terms of, you know, how you look is just how you look, and, you know, when you come out of the oven, that's it. Ashley Elisa. Okay, sorry for filling air there with rubbish. Ashley Elisa. Go and subscribe to her channel. She's great. But the thing is that she told a story about how when she first broke out with a pimple, her mother, and, you know, maybe this was a dramatization, or maybe it was her fucked up way of remembering it. Oh, poor girl. She said, hide this. You know, the mother handed her this bottle of concealer and said, you know, cover this up. Welcome to, you know, adulthood, basically. This, I think, sat in her mind up until this very day, where she thought, oh yeah, I'm always going to break out in pimples, acne, what you know, whatever culture you're from, you might have different words for it. But it's not fucking true. Acne isn't like wait, let me rephrase this, right? Like I said, you know, we have this idea in our head that the way that we come out of the oven is just the way we are and the way we'll always be, and that's it. We also have this thing where it's a misunderstanding of science, okay? Science has been communicated to us wrongly. And it's also gotten a lot of things wrong itself. And that has also been communicated to us. We're also being lied to directly as well. I'll touch upon that in this presentation. We think that, oh, you know, if we develop cancer, oh, you know, cancer is in my family, I can't handle it, it's, you know, it's not my fault. Oh, I developed diabetes in my family, I can't help that. I have this fucking freak fucking acne that comes out, I can't handle that. My mother was like that, so I must be like that, and that's just the way it is. Bullshit. Now, I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not this girl's doctor. I don't necessarily have to be, but neither have I actually had a conversation with Ashley, Elisa, or, you know, helped her figure things out. But I know for sure that there's something in this girl's diet that is causing these acne outbreaks. And maybe, you know, once upon a time, you know, she stopped eating a certain thing, or stopped doing a certain thing, or stopped exposing her body to certain chemicals, and oh wow, for some reason I'm not breaking out as much this month. But this is another little trick that our minds play, is that we don't keep track of these we don't make these correlations. Because breaking out in acne, that's inflammation. And inflammation is actually one of the biggest enemies of mankind. If, you know, you read the current science. It's our number one enemy. It's the cause of, well, sorry, let me rephrase that. It's the comorbid condition and symptom of ballpark 99% of our health problems. Like, yeah, acne, you know, inflammation. The body is reacting to something shitty. Gingivitis of the gums, inflammation. Inflammation is the way that the body responds to shit going wrong. It's trying to fix itself. Even diabetes, you wouldn't imagine, an autoimmune disorder is related to inflammation. So there's something this girl is eating or drinking or, oh, I don't know, putting on her skin. Wouldn't that be a laugh? Oh yeah, first pimple. Oh wow, you know, you're a teenager. Whoop-de-doo, you got a pimple. But your mother comes along, hands you a tub of something that's probably fucking toxic and says, here, put that in your skin. And for some reason you keep breaking out in acne. The shit people, particularly women, put on their skin, it's fucking horrific. And they don't look good after a few decades of doing this. In this video, Ashley said that she ran this experiment while in college, I think. Yeah, in college, where she just stopped wearing this concealer makeup. And I thought, hang on a second. Every time you leave the house, you have some shit on your face? I know very, very few women who as a matter of course, put shit on their face, except maybe lotion. We don't think about these things, and neither do incels, and this is where this all ties in. Sorry to take the long way around, but I'm painting you a picture of my mental palace here, of the things I have learned. We've been sold a bill of goods on what humans are, what we're supposed to do, what we're supposed to eat, what we're supposed to drink. Okay? If you actually look at the science now, and just to make a point, this is it in a nutshell. If you look at the science, and then you look at the food pyramid that is pushed on us, it's pushed on us in Ireland just as it is in America. Because, everyone follows America. Meh. It's actually the complete opposite. Like South Park had an episode about this, where everyone was dying of gluten intolerance. People's dicks were flying off. It was a good episode. And spoiler alert, at the end, the great scientific discovery that Cartman channeled from I don't know the cultural reference, that in a dream he saw a triangle and then the triangle turn upside down. So he went to the FDA or whoever it is and said, hey, try turning the triangle upside down. Maybe that's what we should be eating. Food pyramid. Let's look into this. Yeah, let's switch to visual right now, so you can see what I'm seeing on the video. Food pyramid. So if you actually look at this food pyramid and look at what the science is saying, they're the exact opposite. Like, really, you remember, folks, if you're like my age, like early 30s, mid 30s. How do I open this? I'm still not used to quant. I'm trying to maintain my privacy here, you see. Yeah, there we go. Oh my god, you're downloading Sorry, folks. Oh, it's a video and not an image. Alright, yeah, that's the problem. Okay, well, I'll just magnify the... What are you doing? What's going on? Oh my god. Okay, there we go. Okay, that's big enough. You can see that all by yourself. You have eyes, right? Okay, so if you're around my age, you remember the food pyramid, right? It maybe had like 3 segments to it. Do you remember the biggest segment, which means that this is what you're supposed to eat mostly? Do you remember it being full of fucking bread and rice? And what's that? What is that? Popcorn? And what's that thing there? And a pretzel. Really? This is what we're being shown? This fucking cartoon image? Anyway. Right. The only thing that I can agree with in this food pyramid, right, is at the very top. Okay? Sugary bullshit. See? It's a bottle of juice, you know? That stuff that vegans are really fond of. And then you have and you have like cupcakes and ice cream cones and stuff. Yeah, okay, I agree with that completely. Actually, let's go full Illuminati and just cut off the top of the pyramid altogether. Just cancel that shit out. It's not good for you. It's not enjoyable. You know. It is enjoyable in the same way that methamphetamine and heroin are enjoyable to anyone who actually tries it once. You know, it's called addiction. But seriously, when you were young, were you told to eat a bunch of fucking bread as the base of your fucking nutrition? This top thing aside, right? And I think this is what South Park was actually trying to tell us secretly. The whole pyramid should be upside down. We should be eating meats, and then dairy and fish and crustaceans. And maybe, you know, if you want, you know, eat some veg. There's arguments why you shouldn't, but, you know, it's all up to personal genetics, what your actual gut can actually process. On a microbial level, what you can digest, because there are a lot of poisons in plants that need to be broken down, and most people actually can't break down plant proteins and oxalates and goitrogens. So they're just left in the body to basically act the way that they're supposed to act, which is as a poison. And, you know, maybe if you want to eat some bread every now and then, yeah, sure, go for it, man. You know, sourdough bread, better. But the reason why I'm going down this path is, you know, if this girl, Ashley, I'm going to turn off the screen now. If this girl Ashley actually went on an elimination diet, did nothing but eat steak and drink water for a week, she might actually, I would say 90% chance she will see a diminishing of her acne. I'm living proof of that. Because I've had persistent acne for the past 5 years. 6, 7 years even. I don't know. I just remember that in my 20s I looked much better. And it's because there are certain foods that inflame me. That cause inflammation in me as an individual. Problem is that most of us, we live our lives eating things that cause disease. And because everyone else is eating them, we think it's perfectly fucking fine to do that. To continue that, because, hey, you know, everyone else is doing it. They seem to be fine. And then, you know, we look at the older people and they have chronic diseases and their skin is, you know, looking like shit. And we think, well, you know, they're just old. That's what happens to you when you're old. You know, there's no, you know, we live day by day, week by week, month by month, and we don't have the ability to, you know, condense time into a flow chart. Like, we don't know, say, if when we were born our aunt was 20 and she was like full of life and vigor and probably, you know, stronger than you are when you were 20. And, you know, radiantly beautiful. And then by the time, you know, you start paying attention to the world around you and you're 20, she's 40, and she's developed a chronic illness. You just kind of take it for granted that your aunt is fundamentally unhealthy. You know what I mean? You get what I'm saying here? We don't see the effects of small poisons working on the body slowly. Maybe you could with, like I say, heroin, methamphetamine. We recognize that, right? Someone, you know, they start out on meth and, you know, life is fucking great and it's all the much better because, you know, you're taking meth. And then over the course of, say, 3 years, you know, the all of the flesh just kind of melts away and the skin is just wrapping around the bone. Yeah, then we can point and say, oh yeah, that's a poison that gradually ate away someone's body. Now, where this fits in with what I'm, you know, my incel thing, is that, yeah, a lot of us can actually get through the course of a life just fine, you know, not developing a chronic illness or, you know, anything like too noticeable by eating foods that we shouldn't be eating, that we particularly have a inflammatory reaction to. But it's still affecting us in other ways. Like, let me just bring you this picture of I'm just gonna bring you this picture of this fella, this Scandinavian fella, up on, if I can. I'm just going to go to Google, even though I hate Google. But for this moment, right? Never give up being ugly. Let's see, can we get a good picture of him? Okay, all right. This is the thumbnail of his picture, a video about being ugly. So let's just no. I want to view image, copy image address. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so what's going on with this guy, right? He has an overbite, right? Excuse me, an overbite. And by the way, I'm not judging this guy. I'm just saying what's going on, right? I don't think nature makes ugly people, unless, of course, an Asian man mates with a Western woman. Then, that's bad news. It should be the other way around, and then the child is stunning. But generally, within after a few generations, the body kind of figures out what's attractive, right? So you might start out with particularly difficult genetics, genetics that are hard to work with, but it doesn't mean that you're doomed to be ugly, right? So this guy has a jaw that isn't long enough to meet the upper part of his skull, right? That is a malformed skull. That is due to the current Western diet of grains, mostly. of food that doesn't actually take that much to chew, of foods that are full of oxalates and goitrogens and all the nasty anti-nutrient style poisons that are actually designed to stop you from eating those foods. Yet, in this current age, this is what Scandinavians and other Western people are eating and think is normal. So this kid just had a crappy roll of the dice genetically, and he's the canary in the coal mine. It's not that genetics said, well, fuck this guy, I'm going to make his life living hell. It's just that he should be eating better. Now, there's, as I say, we think that we're just, this cake that's put in the oven and the way that we come out is the way that it is. It is bullshit, especially when it comes to the skull. Okay, the skull is not just one big plate shaped in the shape of a skull. It's actually little pieces of bone tied together with, I'm not a fucking biologist, so I don't know the terminology here. But basically they're like little fissures. You can actually feel them. You can feel a fissure underneath your cheekbone. You can feel them if you're really discerning and particularly skinny, like I am, in other parts of your skull, where it allows it to grow. Because think about it, right? A leg bone can just expand. It can get longer, it can get thicker, but skull bone? It's not that it gets thicker on the outside and then gets thinner on the inside in order to facilitate a bigger flesh as you grow. No, the plates, they're almost like tectonic plates. They move out and new bone is written, basically, created in between. So the shape of your face is really coming down to what you eat and how you actually live. I forget and I should know these things, but fuck it, I just sit down behind the microphone and fucking talk. I hardly do any prep work. I know what I'm going to talk about. Sometimes I do prep work, but no. There's an orthopedic tradition that teaches that the body's positions, say the position of your tongue through most of your life, can actually affect the shape of your face. So, if you, say, have a nasal congestion problem, if you are packed full of inflammatory foods since you're a child, then you're going to have a blocked up nose. That would necessitate that you breathe through the mouth, so that your tongue is always at the bottom of your mouth. So your skull will take a certain shape. The tongue is actually one of the most powerful muscles and biggest muscles in the body. It probably is the biggest. I don't know. I'm not a fucking scientist. But what I do know is that the body, the tongue should be resting at the top of the palate most of the time. One should always be breathing through the nose, never through the mouth. occasionally through the mouth. Now, yogic meditations have caught up upon this, and I've mentioned yoga before, or the yogis anyway, and their knowledge. It's not just a practice get laid, as I may have given you the impression before. But the yogis know that the nose should be the primary passage of air, and the occasional passage through the mouth should be to completely empty the lungs. One should breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth, and when doing breath exercises, empty the lungs after exhaling through the nose, because you just can't get that last bit of air out. What that does is that pushes naturally, or rather causes the tongue to naturally rest at the top of the mouth. This pushes the skull outwards over time, very gradually. Now, if this kid were to adopt these practices, maybe he might be a little too old for this. I don't know. Some people say that by 30 you're done, but I don't. I've seen people's faces change beyond 30. He could significantly improve the symmetry of his face and even the extent of his jaw, particularly if he actually fixed his diet, which means adopting, to me anyway, adopting a carnivore elimination diet, which is basically, and I suggest this also to Alicia, oh fuck, what's her name again? Just want to make sure that she gets the recognition that she's due. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Oh, come on. What? Okay, never mind. Yeah, I mentioned her before. If you haven't gone subscribe to her already, then, fuck you. You don't trust my word. You don't go by my word. Fuck you. Yeah, if Alicia did this as well. Carnivore elimination diet. Eat nothing but steak for a week. Drink nothing but water for a week. And then gradually reintroduce the foods that you normally eat, one by one. And it would be a lot easier for Alicia to know this because, hey, it's shit on her face, right? I only ate meat and, I cheated with coffee, but, that was automatically an elimination because my results were a clear up of my chronic adult acne. And then I started to eat whatever the fuck I wanted, and then my acne came back. So it'll be easy for Alicia to recognize when she is making a wrong move in terms of what she's eating. This guy, he will have to actually monitor his emotional state because, just the reaction of his gut. Because, when you eat the wrong thing, I think everyone knows, when you eat something dodgy, your stomach goes blah, 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 and you get a little bit of a pain. That's the normie level of self-awareness anyway. But if this guy tuned in to how he is feeling, how his mood is, how he is feeling in the gut and in joints and his muscles, then he will know, don't eat that again. All right, continue on with the elimination diet. In a day or two, reintegrate something else that was in the standard diet. Now, how this all goes back to the incel thing is that, look, you know, these guys are fucking complaining. I don't mean to diminish it, but they're complaining about how they can't get the pussy. And what it comes down to is that they're low energy, they're depressed, like this guy is. And I'm not blaming him for it because, yeah, I'd be depressed too. But you've got to bootstrap yourself above that, right? If you went through, you know, and did the yogic practices, held the tongue up against the roof of the mouth, went through the carnivore elimination diet, you might actually be a fucking boss underneath the layer of fail that is your life. You might actually make it through. Now, I don't want to keep this guy on the screen because I don't want to... That is the most revealing image of him, and, you know, he really is a good guy. You know, he's a good guy at heart. I don't want to, you know, insult him. Now, we're gonna move on topic-wise, but not before I play some more music. I mean, that's basically it. Like, you know, this isn't some magical pill I'm going to give the incels, say, you know, here, this will equalize the sexual marketplace. Take this. No, it takes a little bit of work. But the little cherry on top is that it's not going to take as much work as you've made it up in your head to be. You've just got to start being awesome. That's all. That's all. And being awesome, hey, who would know? It feels awesome. So, you know, like, come on. You know, once you bite into this lovely, delicious cake, you'll always know how it tastes and how it makes you feel. The thing is that you've got to give it a week of your life. And the thing is that I did give it a week of my life 6 years ago. And we live in such addicting times, right? I would just order a pizza or buy a bar of bullshit chocolate off the shelf in the supermarket, and then I would ruin all of my progress. But in the back of my mind, I always knew this solution exists. You just need the right moment in your life where there's motivation to pick up that solution again and say, okay, I know what it's like to be healthy and happy and emotionally consistent. So this time, I'm actually going to go with it. I want to continue honoring my friend Dean. With the appropriate music. You know what? This feels like digging up a grave, but in order to find this particular song... And by the way, John, if you're just tuned in, thanks for thanks for the laugh. Yeah, I'm going to go into my Skype conversation with Dean and find this song by Mogwai. I forget how to pronounce their name. They're a Norwegian band. Very and I'm probably going to have my video monetized by them for just playing it. Actually, you know what? I don't know. I don't remember listening to this song. Oh, man, I'm such a dick. I'm a terrible friend. But here is Alt J with Tarot while we take a break. Enjoy.
Kappa jumps to 2 feet creep up the road. 2 photo to record me lumps and war. Their ancestors his chance. Oh, very yellow white flash. A violent red Christmas rips light as live like grass. But so high from the leak avalanche, mine is a watery pit. Painless with immense distance from medic, from colleague, friend, enemy, foe. In 5 years from his leg, from Utah. I have sprayed you into my eyes. 3:10 PM, gap up and death quivers, last rattle, last chokes. Oh, colors and cares, glazed to grey, shriveled and stricken to dots. The left hand grasp, but the body grasp not. The photographic more. 3.1415 at life, no longer my more. Faded for home, here 54 doors open like arms, my love. Painless with a great closeness. Two Kappa, dark after nothing reunited with his spec and with you, Taro. I have sprayed you into my eyes.
I miss your beautiful soul. That tune particularly, yeah. Grief is a funny thing. Funny in that we all experience it differently. And it's really the asshole that we all have, really. People say that opinions are like an asshole, but not everyone has an opinion. Which is, you know, in most cases a good thing. But we all relate to grief differently, and that's our asshole. Everyone has one. And you know what? there's no arguing with the way that people process, you know? Like, what right do you have to say to a person, hey, you know, you're grieving too long, you're grieving wrongly, or maybe you just didn't grieve at all. That's wrong. I'm sorry, folks. Maybe it's the vodka water. Maybe it's just genuine emotions, but fuck, that song wrecked me. Right. So, yeah, incels, get your shit together, okay? Because death happens to us all. It comes to us. But for the most part, like for most people, it's going to come to the people that you know first. And maybe, you know, it takes that to happen a few times, you know, to really get a fucking grip of yourself. I'm sorry, I really didn't want to insult incels, man, but like, I know it's hard when you're, you know, a loser and you're fucking used to being a loser. I mean, because, you know, on many levels, I'm a loser too. On many levels, a lot of people are losers. Most, actually, I would say. You know, we fall short in so many ways. We're imperfect beings. And maybe the incel community could do with being injected with that attitude a little more, because the internet is just such a funny fucking thing, man. You know, it puts you in these little ghettos with each other, with people that you know, and well, not that you know, but that think along the same lines that you do, and then you just kind of incestuously breed there in that little corner of the world, and occasionally something you say might breach that ghetto and leak into someone else's ghetto, and then they'll get offended and flag you for hate speech because you're so used to your own thoughts being peddled back to you that you think everyone accepts what you think and, you know, will agree, or if not agree, but that they know this themselves and they're just denying it. I just drenched myself in water. This is a sign that I shouldn't be live streaming for very much longer. The slight lack of coordination and grief. Yeah, I should wrap it up. But like this, there's nothing else in this world worth your time than being who you are, the fullness of who you are. And, you know, there's a clever little meme that goes around every now and then that I see it pop up on Facebook, you know, from my family and friends. That, you know, you're not supposed to look for who you are, you're supposed to create who you are. I disagree. I actually disagree with both. You're not supposed to look for who you are, you're not supposed to create who you are. Who you are was there from the beginning. You can't escape it. You can't find it. And you can't create it because it doesn't belong to you anyway. It was given to you by some mysterious fucking force in this world that science and philosophy could never hope to fucking comprehend. And that's your birthright. That's what's being given to you as an individual, something incomprehensible. But we just end up fucking on our Twitter and Reddit fucking ghettos sharing our fucking recycled poison, completely unaware of our divine nature. Yeah, brilliant. Lovely. What a life well spent. Now, I put down a list here. Incels, health crisis, anti-corruption rising, anti-corruption Ireland rising. That's not a capital R, that's a lowercase r. Agenda 21. Okay, so I don't know. I just put in Gemma Doherty's anti-corruption Ireland because it deserves pointing to. Health crisis. I don't know why I put that in there. I had this list in my head. I forgot my notebook today, but I have this list in my head of things that I was going to bring up, and then I forgot them all. So I just wrote out a bunch of random shit in the video title. But what I do want to cover is my departure from Facebook and social media at large, really. And I have a multifaceted reason for actually doing that. Let's see. It's partly going to be me reading from a script. But back in early February, I would say, I was banned from Facebook for 30 days because I drew a picture of an owl with an SS armband on its wing, and clearly Facebook doesn't have a sense of humor. But in that time, in that 30 days, I became detoxed from Facebook. So here we go. Leaving Facebook and why. This is a transcript. A script I'm going to put on a video at some point. Maybe never. I'm sitting on like 10 scripts of videos. They could possibly change the world, but I'm too lazy. There are many reasons to not use Facebook. For me, the balance has finally been outweighed in favor of not being. Even though I'm not liable to hear of deaths, births, marriages, and many other significant events from family and friends. The other reasons, like sharing a laugh with others and sharing vital information about the world with said friends and family, are actually untrue now for various reasons. They were true, they've become untrue. The chief one being, the algorithm has decided that the thoughts I value and choose to share on social media are not valuable to them, and thus it will not show those things to them. Hang on a second. I've got to... This and other tricks of the algorithm are literally controlling our thoughts by virtue of our own self-censorship, a learned response of Pavlovian conditioning, which has us editing what we share and thus what we think before the conscious mind is even aware and has the opportunity to register it. As if knowing this wasn't bad enough, I had to wait until things became really blatant. Even more blatant than the mass emotional experiment of millions of users back in 2014. More blatant than their flagrant manipulation of the 2016 US presidential election, and even more blatant than Zuckerberg appearing before US Congress acting like Data from Star Trek while he lied to and contradicted himself in front of the congressmen about the trustworthiness and safety of his vast empire. What broke the camel's back for me was the Project Veritas expose on the protocol in Facebook's code that could be initialized on someone's account, and this is where I stopped writing, to basically demote them in terms of their reach on the social network manually. Someone goes in and switches this on to make sure that certain conservative assholes are seen by less people, you know? What do they call that Jew McJewy guy that everyone loves? Can't remember his name. It was blatantly applied to him. A Facebook whistleblower has come out and said, with evidence, by the way. Look into that Project Veritas thing. So this code to demote posts and live streams was actually developed with the expressed idea to stop images, messages, and video of self-harm or promoting self-harm from reaching a wider audience, which is actually a problem on the internet. But as you know, from say 9/11 and all that, but the government and corporations, they jump on opportunities to protect us and use those opportunities to basically suppress us, control us. This is what social media is doing now. I've decided to just kick Facebook because I've detoxed now and I've dipped my toe back in the water, and I'm not really impressed. But this is the trick here, folks. Facebook makes sure to find any excuse to ban a conservative person, whether they're someone with 1,000 followers or someone with a few friends. It's a war of attrition against alternative viewpoints. Now you could say, oh well, does that mean that they lose customers? No, it doesn't mean that they lose customers. Because we are all customers of Facebook. Whether we use Facebook or not, Facebook is collecting data on us. Have you ever went to a website? Well, that's a stupid question. Everyone's went to a website where you have share buttons just presented to you there. Share on G+, which is now defunct. Share on Twitter, share on Facebook, share on Reddit. All these little buttons. They're not just, you know, cute little buttons that the webmaster has put in there and that you can click on. They're JavaScript. Basically server-side code that has been run by your computer by virtue of you actually being on that web page, unless you've installed the necessary security features. And as a result, has collected data on you that you have visited this website. Your IP address and also other identifying markers like what theme you're running on your browser, what kind of browser you're using, what plugins that you're using on your browser. All identifiable markers that could isolate you. Like say if you got a VPN, a virtual private network, it's all the rage now. Get a VPN and you'll be anonymous online. Bullshit. If I go to website A, which has the Facebook JavaScript on it with my original IP, then Facebook will say, oh, okay, this guy has been on this website. If I log in with my VPN, which changes my IP address, and go to website B, which also has the Facebook JavaScript on it, then Facebook will say, he's using a different IP, but I can see from his browser, the themes, all of this data, that this is the same person. This is all aggregated in a huge fucking supercomputer somewhere that's funded totally by the NSA. I mean, just, do your research, folks, on Quant or DuckDuckGo, not Google, by the way. Do your research. Zuckerberg and his empire was initially floated by the CIA. Even The Onion made a joke about this, about how the intelligence communities are so relieved that they don't need to go collecting information about people anymore because we just willingly give our information away. This is what we're doing as we casually browse the internet with absolutely no protections involved. So it doesn't matter if you use Facebook.com, if you post on Facebook.com, because you are still a data point for them to latch onto. They can still get all of the information that they want about you, about your interests, about your inclinations, about your pornography interests, and package you and sell you to their, in legalistic terms, their partners. Or they can just give it away to the NSA, CIA, or any of the other alphabet agencies across the world. So I think, hey, if Facebook wants to play this game, then I can play this game too. Slowly but surely. I have taken the advice of a YouTuber called The Hated One. Oh, John. Pornography interests? LOL. Most people have some pretty fucking dark secrets, man. I'm sorry, but that's just the way of human nature. And we openly, show this to our computer, All the fucked up thoughts and desires that we have, we just type them into Google. I mean, come on. Oh, yeah, like nobody is ever going to figure out that I like feet or something like that. Anyway, I have implemented the advice of a YouTuber by the name of The Hated One. Go look him up. Go subscribe to him. He'll keep you abreast of all the privacy and security news that you need to know and help you secure your life in the digital age. He had a guide last year, how to protect your privacy in 2018. Now he has a much more improved guide to privacy in 2019. At the very least, go to privacytools.io. Privacytools.io. I've been implementing this, and yeah, it's a pain in the ass. You have to use 3 different browsers. you have to log in constantly to all of the websites that you're using. Pretty much every time you shut down a website completely, close all the tabs that you have open from it. But that's okay, I use LastPass. I have a master password for all of my passwords. It fills them out automatically. There are ways to evade this terrible privacy invasion that is the 2010s. Now, whenever I log into, say, Gmail on my computer, the same computer that I've been using the day before, I get an alert from Gmail in my Gmail inbox. Yeah, that's security for you. And it says, oh, we've detected a suspicious login from a new Linux device. That's how you know you have them, by the balls. Every time I log into Facebook, yeah, I have to jump through a hoop. But hey, it's worth it. I've decided that if my family and friends don't actually see the posts that I make, I'm better off just make a Facebook page and funnel all of what I think is important onto that page. Also onto an Instagram page and a Twitter page, and all that is managed with a brilliant website called buffer.com. I don't have to go to the individual websites or accept their cookies. I just need to log into buffer.com, put in my post, and it either posts straight away or schedule the post, and I don't even need to go to these websites. Heck, I at some point, I hope to not even have Facebook Messenger on my phone or my computer. These things are all possible, folks. It's just a matter of recognizing whether your soul, whether your privacy is important to you. And the hated one has made many good arguments about, whether privacy is important or not. I suggest you go look at it for yourself, because a lot of people, including people that I live with, who, by the way, have Alexa and occasionally use it, not her. They say, oh, well, they can just get all this information anyway if they wanted to, blah, 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 blah. I have nothing to hide. That's it's the most nonsensical thing I've ever heard. You have nothing to hide? I don't think so, mate. You have loads to hide. And not only is this stuff that you should, by default, be allowed to hide from others, being used as a form of revenue for other corporations that, frankly, come on, YouTube and Google and Facebook, they're not making money by people clicking on ads. They're staying afloat by selling you on the black market. Not only is this happening, but you're being fed into a giant supercomputer, a quantum computer, by the way, which is modeling all human interactions and tendencies and characteristics. I don't know if this is implemented right now, but it's very possible that each and every one of us has been replicated inside a quantum computer. Little data points dotted on the map of where we live, interacting with each other as you and I would interact. This quantum computer, say, dear listener, if we haven't ever met before or spoke, if you were to contact me, by the way, email address howard@evrn.net. I'm always looking for friends and connections. But if we were to actually talk, I think that quantum computer would know exactly what you're going to say to me and exactly how I'd respond to you. This is the level of technology that we have reached today. It's not, of course, for the consumer level, because, you know, how could you market that to people, normal people? They don't want it. No. It's only marketable to tech giants and alphabet agencies. But it's very possible that we all are being replicated inside one of these computers. And, well, you know, what's the most important thing in the world to the global hegemon as it exists today? It's to continue existing, to keep control of the rowdy masses who are finally waking up to the ills of globalism and mass immigration and mass factory farming. Yeah. Why not build a giant computer that just calculates all of the possible ramifications of each individual's actions and thoughts and information that they share online, and be ahead of the game? Why would you give that information away for free if this is the case? Which it is. By the way, I've even stopped using my Super Value Club card. Because even national supermarket chains have been known to sell their information directly, pipeline, to Facebook. Yeah. And we all know that since the CIA floated Facebook for its first few years, including Google, that all that information is just being pipelined straight on to the NSA. So, yeah. Isn't that great, folks? We're fucking puppets. We're fools, man. We've just swallowed the Kool-Aid whole. We just knocked back that whole pint glass of fucking poison and said, can we have some more? Can we have a device on our heads to just completely black out reality totally and completely and live in this magical fairyland that you've sold us? Yeah, that's what we're being led into right now. You know, I almost got hit by a driver pulling out of a parking space along a very quiet road. You know? And it's not like I was coming around a bend or anything. No, they could see me. I was in their line of sight for about 30 seconds. And no, they weren't reversing out of their parking space. They were one of the clever ones who reversed into the parking space, so when it came to time to leave, they weren't looking behind their fucking shoulders to make sure that they weren't hitting anyone. I'll give them points for that. But I almost got hit by the cunt. Why? It could it possibly be because we are increasingly transfixed by these fucking devices in our pockets? Could we have just finally broken that solid connection between ourselves and reality itself? And now it's just starting to show up in little tiny ways of, you know, like, say, reckless driving. Watch drivers now, more and more. watch them closely. I think they're going to get more reckless and more stupid as the days and months and years go by. It's going to be like Idiocracy. I hope you've seen that movie. It's brilliant. That moment when the protagonist in the doctor's office realizes, holy shit, I'm not actually in the current year. And he looks out the window and he sees a fucking jumbo jet just, you know, randomly career into a skyscraper. And it's not that this driver who almost hit me was at the time looking at their phone. No, that's not the case at all. It doesn't necessarily need to be the case. You know, people used to get fucking angry, say, you know, my mother, who, you know, would be fond of looking at her text messages while driving. We were stuck in gridlock traffic a few years ago there, and the traffic on the other direction was free-flowing, but we were waiting behind lights, and she just picked up her phone and looked at a text, and this transit van comes whizzing by. I think there was a traveller in there, and, you know, that means something to Irish listeners. And he honked and said, "Get off your fucking phone." Like, she was sitting in traffic, bro. But the thing is, folks, these things are hypnotic. They bring us into a hypnotic state. Neuroscientists have actually figured out what it is that brings you into, like, neurologically. You know, and we're not talking about all the other cofactors that might actually inhibit or accelerate this process, but the characteristic of being in a flow state, if you've ever heard of a flow state where, what's that show and movie? There was a show and movie about, there's this drug out there that, you know, makes you into a fucking genius, but then you know, you can do and be everything and sense everything, and then turns out that you're addicted to it and you need some kind of serum or some shit. The flow state. We've all been there, where we're at our peak and we get shit done, and we're happy and content. Happy is a trigger word. Sorry. You know, happy is bullshit. Content, at peace. Something comes up. Oh yeah, I can deal with that. I can do that. Oh yeah, someone you know, died in a horrible accident. Yeah, okay, maybe I'll process that later. But, you know, let's you know, continue with our day. Let's, you know, get this shit done. This is characterized by a particular way of observing your environment. And that is observing yourself as an object in your environment. You can actually induce the flow state by attempting to do this. Like I say, there's other cofactors like diet and, you know, other things that affect the biology. But if you can just look around where you are right now and realize that you are an object in the environment, then you're in flow state. Or at least, you know, if all the other cofactors are there, then you're in there. All these devices, they're hypnotic. They bring you into a different state of mind. They bring you into another world. It's like dreaming. It's like daydreaming. It's like being in love. These are all altered states of consciousness, folks. Your device is an altered state of consciousness. And what does your device do? It calls your attention to it occasionally. Every now and then it will make a noise or it'll vibrate. Look at me, look at me. after about 10 years, say about 15 years of having standard mobile phones, oh, I got a text message, oh, I'm getting a call. Today, people keep their phones on silent a lot, but back in the day, no, it'll always ring, it'll always vibrate. I think that trained us over time that we should look at these things. Sorry, a lot of fluid. I'm burping. And we're trained now to look at these things routinely, and I notice this. People looking at their phones a lot, and I notice this in myself. And like when I'm trying to escape myself, my authentic being, I'll routinely look at the phone, pick it up, and think, what the fuck am I looking at this screen for? What's the fucking point? I just want something. This infantile mind, I want something. That is, for me, the little bell that goes off saying, hey, you're not being present. You've got to go into that flow state. You've got to recognize yourself as an object in your environment, and instead of this other altered state. Sure, go into another altered state. That's a good thing. Look out the window. Like today, I had the bell go off today. I picked up my phone like 3 times, and it was on airplane mode, because when you're in a moving conveyance, by the way, your radiation exposure is amplified because the signal is trying to catch up with you. But generally, I go on airplane mode anyway. I was thinking, I don't have anything to do here. Yeah, I'm listening to music, but I've already put on the music. What am I doing? Put that thing down. And I went into another altered state. I looked up at the clouds. Do you guys know what clouds are? Have you noticed them before at all? There are those things that float in the sky. Yeah, I think most people don't, man. And I got lost in them. Just like I would get lost in the phone. But hey, you know what? When I got lost in the clouds, I was more with myself than if I was lost in fucking Twitter. Alright, rant done, folks. I'm going to sign out because, I'm just being a dick now. Sometimes I get on a roll, but like I said, this is in memory of Dean. The most gentle and beautiful soul. Honestly. Like, gentle. I underline that with twice. Gentle. Like he's like butter. And we lost him last week. The world is slightly less better off than it was a week ago. Well, 9 days ago. And it makes me angry, man. It makes me really fucking angry because the world is so full of poison, and I know that poison killed him. I don't know exactly what was his immediate demise, but I know that what heavily contributed to it was the fact that this world was just too much for such a gentle soul that he, in the end, harmed himself. Why are we allowing this to happen? Why are we letting this carry on any longer than it should? We know this is poison. We know the world is just out to get us. Because it is. They want us weak, apathetic, just on the verge of chronic illness until we're past the point of where we don't want to work anymore. Then we get the chronic illnesses. And then, of course, our governments, our tax money goes right back to keeping us alive just long enough so that the pharmaceutical industry can fucking milk us. And then they want us to die. Like Gemma O'Doherty pointed out, everyone in the Post gets now a leaflet saying, over 50s funeral plan. Put away €5 every week and contribute to your funeral, which is going to be really fucking soon. Really? This is what we're putting up with? This is the best we can do?
Your cell phone, your wallet, your time, your ideas, no barcode, no party, no ID, no beers, your bank card, your license, your thoughts, your fears, no SIM card, no disco, no photo, not here, your blood, your sweat, your passions, your regrets, your profits, your time off, your fashions, your sex, your pills, your grass, your tits, your ass, your laughs, your balls, we want it all.
Your soul. Your house, your home, your life, your cash, your house, your phone. We want your soul. Your house, your home, your life, your cash, your house, your phone. We want your soul.
Tell us your habits, your fads, your fears. Give us your address, your shoe size, your years, your digits, your plans, your number, your eyes, your schedule, your desktop, your details, your life. Show us your children, your photos, your home. Here, take credit, take insurance, take a loan. Get a job, get a pension, get a haircut, get a suit. Playing the lottery, play football, play the field, snore some toot. We'll show you dreams, we'll show you food, we'll buy you dreams, throw away your book. We'll sell you crap, we'll charge you debt. Wanna buy big guns, we'll front them cash.
Your soul, your house, your home. We want your soul. Your house, your home. We want your soul. Your house, your home. We want your soul. Your house, your home. We want
your thoughts, your emotions, your love, your dreams, your checkbook, your essence, your sweat, your screams, your security, your sobriety, your innocence, your society, yourself, your place, your distance, your space.
Go back to bed, America. Your government is in control again. Here, watch this. Shut up. You are free to do as we tell you. You are free to do as we tell you.
Matters. Here's Britney, here's cola, here's pizza, here's TV, here's some rock, and some roller. Watch commercials, more commercials, watch Jerry, not Oprah. Buy a better life from the comfort of your sofa. Here's popcorn, here's magazines, here's milkshake, here's blue jeans, here's padded bars, here's armpit wax, here's football shirts, here's baseball caps, here's live talk shows, here's video games, here's cola life, here's tin bowling, here's filter tips, here's college minutes, here's all night malls, here's plastic hits.
Your house, your home. We want your soul. Your house, your home. We want your soul. Your house, your home. We want your soul. Your house, your home. We want your soul.
Go back to bed, America. Your government is in control again. Here's American Gladiators. Watch this. Shut up. Go back to bed, America. Here is American Gladiators. Here is 56 channels of it. Watch these pituitary retards bang their fucking skulls together and congratulate you on living in the land of freedom. Here you go, America. You are free to do as we tell you. You are free to do as we tell you.
Want your soul.
No strays, no dropouts, no gays, no lefties, no loonies, no opinions, no way. No thinkers, no teachers, no facts, no freaks, no skaters, no tweakers, no truth, no fun. Here's popcorn, here's magazines, here's milkshake, here's blue jeans, here's padded bars, here's armpit wax, here's football shirts, here's baseball caps. Here's very, 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 very long infomercials.
In memory of Dean Brown. An angel. Much love to his family. And to those still with us. Eat meat, drink water, have families.